It's Matt Santacapita from the Santa Sells Houses team, and I just wanted to jump on and give my 2 cents about something that we're probably going to see happen here in the call it coming months. Let's call it 3 to 6 months time frame. Now, anybody who has seen some of my videos, when it comes to inflation data or anything economics related, I generally look to the United States. Obviously, the reasoning there is it's the world's largest economy. And as well, it's our number one trading partner. So generally speaking, whatever happens in the United States echoes into Canada. And it's just because we do have to be so aligned because of how close we are, economically and as trading partners. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is a recent change that came out of the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Now, it's related to the CPI or inflation. And most people aren't really aware, but the way that the inflation data has been calculated, so for instance, the inflation numbers that we are seeing today, being, call it January trending into February of 2023, is actually based off of a relatively long period of time that goes back to 2019. So we're talking 5 years worth of data. They're making a change to it. And now they've done this in the past. I'm not sure if I agree or disagree with it. It is what it is, but I understand why they're doing it. And it's because the current monetary policy from either the Bank of Canada or the US Fed to increase rates, which is going to decrease inflation, let's just be honest, is not really working out the way that they thought. So what they've decided to do is, because the Bank of Canada and the US Fed, their mandate is to manipulate interest rates to get inflation down to 2%. Well, if it's not working, change the calculation. And that's what they're doing. So they're going to be moving to data from 2021 to 2023. So they're shaving 2 years of old data off the calculation. Now, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually pretty significant. And there are some analysts who are predicting that what this is going to do is, let's say in the United States, right now I believe they're at 6.3% inflation is kind of where it sits, is that with this change by March 1, we might be actually at 2% inflation because of some of the inflation numbers are going to be removed. And what I wanted to do is take a few examples so that we can put this in, I call it again, real terms of things that people understand. So let's talk about gas prices, diesel prices, and rent. Most people maybe aren't aware, but housing prices are not included in the inflation numbers. Rent is included. Housing prices, they were actually removed 40 years ago, the last time they made the big change. So to give you, and I'm going to put this down in the description so you can see how the numbers shake out, but to kind of, if you look at January 2019, gas on average in Ontario, and I did take Ontario data for this, gas was at $1.02, diesel was at $1.11, and average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Ontario was $1,807. Now, if you compare to the easiest numbers that I could grab were December, and the reason we don't have January of 2023 is we're not done yet, so we don't have an average. But so I compared it to December of 2022. Gas prices on average were $1.41. Diesel was $2.08. And the average Ontario 2-bedroom apartment was $2,540. Now, when you compare this to, the 2019 info, gas is up 38.2%, diesel is up 87.3%, and rent's up 40.6%. Under the new calculation that BLS is moving with starting this month, they would go back and look at data from 2021, scrap 2020, and scrap 2019. The difference there, in January of 2021, the average gas price in Ontario is $1.18, diesel was $1.14, and rent was $2,021 for a 2-bedroom apartment in the province of Ontario. Now, when you compare that to the December 2022 numbers that I explained, your difference for gas, it's only up 19.4%. Diesel is up 81.9 and rent is up 25.7. Now, these are still very large increases, but they aren't as large as when you go back 5 years versus looking at 3 years, or really 2 and 4, however you really want to look at calendar years. But anyways, obviously the reason is that as these changes take place, 2 years ago, we saw significant inflation. 3 years ago and 4 years ago, we didn't. So they're kind of pulling the data up to more I call it the real world scenario of where we lie. But essentially, what this is doing is, I'll use gas price as an example for this. It reduces the inflation on gas by 49.3%, on diesel by 6.2%, and by rent by 36.7%. So what is that going to do? The new calculation is going to obviously drop the inflation numbers. Did inflation really stop? Nope. They just changed the calculation. And why I think this is very important. Yes, the BLS is out of the United States. It is not a Canadian metric for inflation. However, I think it's only a matter of time before Canada follows suit and we do the same calculations. After all, if this change in calculations ends up showing, let's say, inflation in the United States at 2% and inflation in Canada at 8%, I think we're going to have a problem in the sense of we as Canadians are going to start asking, why is the United States inflation leveled off and why haven't we? And the reality is we're calculating two different things. Now, this is also very important because once we get closer to the Bank of Canada and the US Fed's mandate of 2% inflation, two things can happen. One is money printing. The other is reducing interest rates. And I think in reality, what we are going to start to see, today we are going to see the Bank of Canada probably raise 25 basis points. It's inevitable they're going to do it. They might do another 25. Not really sure, but that's my prediction. But by June, I'm going to say we're going to level off. And by the end of summer or fall of this year, I do think they're going to start backtracking on their interest rate policy, both in Canada and the United States, because there are clear indications that the interest rate manipulation that's going on is negatively affecting the economy, which is what they intended to do. However, it's a fine line. You don't want to do it for too long. They just want to curb demand. Maybe some people have heard the term demand destruction. That is what they're trying to do. They are trying to stop certain things from happening, and that's they have to stop demand. We have to stop consuming so that inflation drops. Problem with that when it comes to housing, especially in Canada and London here, demand is still very strong. The biggest holdback is the payment now for a home has changed because mortgage rates have increased drastically. So, solve the problem, change how inflation's calculated, and allow for cheaper interest rates. That's my prediction. I think that's what we're going to see within 6 months, I'll say. So call it by end of summer, fall, which means right now actually might be a really good time to be shopping for a home. And what I would do is I would look for short-term money. I'm not sure I would go variable. I do like the security of a set payment. However, I think a 1 and a 2 year mortgage right now would be very smart because I do anticipate at least 12 months down the road that those rates are going to be different, and we are starting to see that reflected in the bond market. So hope you got some value from this. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you think I'm wrong, I'd love to hear it. If you think I'm right, I'd love to hear it. I just want to hear what you guys think. Thank you.